Welcome to People Human Rights, peoplehumanrights2020.com. I am Olga. For this video, the stone 4. In the last video, the stone 3, we talked about the depopulation of the human motherlands through immigration and all its sides. And we can't actually know exactly number of people who died through this process. Women, men, children, millions since many years. In the report, according to the Center of Studies, Strategic Studies for Africa, published on the 1st of July 2020, information coming from HCR, UNHCR, United Nations High Commissioner to Refugees, and to other organisms. So, some numbers. So it has been 29 millions of refugees and people who have moved on the human motherlands. For example, in Nigeria only, I will read some, just a few numbers from some countries. So, for Nigeria, 2,624,723 millions of people displaced, and 292,510 refugees, all those for conflict situation, from exaction, from expropriation, and all of those sorts of situations. For example, in Democratic Republic of Congo, there was 5,512,000 people displaced, and 912,691 refugees. And now they are talking about those people who were displaced and who are coming back to the Democratic Republic of Congo, in their country, and coming from Angola, or coming from moving to the Kasai region of the Congo, and so it is said that there will be a humanitarian crisis with hunger. Cameroon, for example, 976,773 displaced people, and 58,151 refugees. Ethiopia, 1,414,000 displaced people, and 95 and 688 refugees. In South Sudan, for example, 2,134,000 displaced people, 734 and 34,000 and 754,944 refugees. So they are now talking, and the HCR is now the United Nation for the Commission of Refugees. They are now saying that in Angola there is 1,300,000 people facing hunger. In Kenya, 2,500,000 people facing hunger. All these, of course, because of the expropriation and because of drought. Yeah, so it is a very tough situation. And how is it actually on the continent? While the motherland's population is diminishing with not too much noise through all those immigration scandals, through desert, through the sea, human trafficking, etc. And while the refugees on the lands after expropriation are just by themselves. So there are now some refugees coming from outside. Let us see how they will be treated. And while the people who are already immigrated on the human motherlands have absolute no respect for local population, and they are invited their owns on the continent. And then you have all those national, multinational companies through looting of resources, of course. Slavery, they call modern slavery, as if they call it modern slavery. Through waters and lands who are poisoned, destroyed, through armies, imperial armies, armies from imperialism, country who practice imperialism. They occupied the lands. They create and generate a lot of conflict, a lot of genocides. And there are also those viruses and vaccines with some kind of dark aim. So there's a lot to do on the continent. We need to ask ourselves some questions and answer absolutely to those questions. We need to pray, and we need to organize the self-defense of the populations. So, for the questions, let's ask ourselves some questions. how many genocides are actually being committed on the continent? How many people displaced and refugees are dying from hunger and all by themselves? Is there some places of massacre, genocide, which are still unknown? Can we trace all those displaced people and try to see at which point we lose their trace? Is there a list of all refugees camps in the continent? What is actually going on there? How many dumps are there near the cities where poor people go to try to find something to eat? Which protection is there against radioactivity? Is there some programs to sanitize the polluted water and polluted lands? And economically, a country cannot leave its economy in the hands of foreign people or states, because the multinationals companies, they use the poverty to present, to sell some articles at very low, at low price, and while the people on the continent, the native businesses, can't really prosper because people don't buy too many things there, because everyone is rushing for articles which cost less because of finances. So we are in a circle, because if the local companies cannot have clients enough to grow and be able later to reduce their prices and be competitive on the market against the foreign companies, the economy, local economy, cannot develop. So there's something to do there. People need to buy local production, help local companies to grow, to be competitive on the market. And how to take back all those lands taken by force, by exactions on populations, all those depossessions, how to end all the looting of resources, and be able for the country, the government, to sell their natural resources at a reasonable price, where people who buy, the countries who buy, effectively pay for the goods. How to take back all those plants that were confiscated by the pharmaceutical firms. And there are also some vaccines problems, which aim is not very clear. And while they propose that, they refuse, they don't give approbation to local remedies, no homologation, and they even go beyond that and kill doctors or local doctors or local researchers who find remedies, for example, against malaria, paludism, and against HIV. Many of them have been just killed. And there's also that that demand of forgetting the past from those who committed many crimes. To forget the colonial past and see, is it reasonable? Because how can we just forget people who have so much suffered, who were victims of incredible crimes, mistreatments, inhuman, with a violence, incredible violence? Can we leave those objects, those possessions which were looted, and all those destruction of the constructions, of local constructions? And is it even possible to forgive at the place of someone else? Because we can only forgive at the level for which we were we were hurt, and the souls who suffered are constantly crying to God, for God to make them justice spiritually. So, and even how to forget, because we are not even in the situation where we can forget. There is all those genocides and oppressions which are still going on. All the remaining suffering is still, of the past time, is still there. There's no reparation, no restitution, always the same dark politics. So let's see now about prayer, because prayer is very important. Prayer is like a force of the nature. It's the only thing people can never people can't tell you not to pray, you see. Because whatever they do, even if they don't want to hear you pray, or they don't want you to meet somewhere to pray, you can still pray inside yourself. Prayer is like a storm, or a volcano, and is the connection, direct connection with the Creator, with God, or whatever you call him, with the Creator, the being above all beings. And for those who can't really pray because, well, it's also an abstract notion, so it's not easy. But in the Judeo and Christian religion, you've got the 150 Psalms of King David, which are like ready-made prayers that you can adapt and pray with. So it depends and the numbers are the same all the time, depending the version. There is only 2 different versions, some with a number, some who have the 150 psalms, and some version was 151 psalms. So in some version, for example, the number 2 will be the number 3 in the other version, but it's not difficult to find. And we recommend also to remember those, to learn, to remember the psalm you think interesting for you. In case you are not able to reach them at some point for a reason or for another one, at least you've got them in your memory. So let us read some psalms, just to for some people who doesn't know what it is about, to have an idea of what it is. For example, Psalm 35, verse 1. Content, Yahweh, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Let's see the Psalm 121. 121, verse 1 to 2. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from Yahweh, who made heaven and earth. Verse 5. Yahweh is our keeper. Yahweh is our shade on our right hand. Psalm 91, verse 3. For he will deliver us from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. Psalm 29, verse 8. Yahweh's voice shakes the wilderness. Yahweh's voice shakes the desert. Psalm 64, verse 3 to 7. It's about the wicked people, how they behave. Verse 3 to 7. Who sharpen their tongue like a sword and aim their arrows, deadly words, to shoot innocent men from ambushes. They shoot at him suddenly and fearlessly. They encourage themselves in evil plans. They talk about laying snares secretly. They say, who will see them? They plot injustice, saying, we have made a perfect plan. Surely man's mind and heart are cunning. But God will shoot at them. They will be suddenly struck down with an arrow. So, now let's talk about the self-defense of populations. Because the future is in self-defense of populations and self-determinations of people. Whether it's individual self-defense or collective self-defense. Individually, for example, we should think about the techniques of combat or autochtone. For now, it is sports, combat sports, but it should be spread into the population, like some fighting sports. And in Ethiopia, there's a kind of sport called Tonga, among the Omo people. For women, you need to remember that women are warriors. And the human motherland had many warrior women in the past. There were the Amazons of Benin, there were other women who led their led to victory. So how did they do? How did they train? We can't just stay like that, waiting for people to come and hurt us. No. For example, it should be good to wear some protection on the neck. You know, there are some those metallic chains around the neck, around the wrist, around the feet. And how to protect the head as well. Should we always walk with a helmet? Should we sleep with inside an armor? Should we wear metal plaques on the chest and on the back, and how to adapt all these to, for example, to how to make that fashionable but effective for protection. And with the regarding rape, whether it is committed individually or whether it is coming from incest in the family, whether it is a war weapon, horrible practice. There are now some companies who are working towards anti-rape underwears, and so this is for the outside. Should we make them in some strong material or some metal, or is it there are also some protection which are already on the market, just to have an idea. They have an idea. They are internal protection, like grips or nails, and it is something that needs to disappear. This rape things needs to disappear. And also collectively, should we build those walls like in the past, and put people there, watchers night and day, on towers, built towers again, which protection against bombs, where people could go when there's a bomb. How can they do? And how to adapt self-defense. You see, all those self-defense, how to adapt it to children, and how to teach that to children. Should we use strong material for doors and windows, you know? Of course, those we need those native workers who works with iron, artisanal workers, and people who work on stones as well. And for the night, we need those. There are many stones which during the day take the light of the sun, and during the night they can render the light. We can walk with them, with it in dark places, or even have some in the house in case there's no electricity. Still, the house is not in the dark. And we can keep with us rings, something that can make noise to give alert people. So there's a lot to do, a lot to think, and we need to remember 3 things: prayer, protection, and perseverance are the things that leads to victory.